Two announcements. We had Diamond Center Track 5 was filed. This is the property directly across from Diamond Center Drive from a previous conditional use that we had done a few months back. And then Maumelle Valley Estates Phase 19 was officially filed and recorded.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyon. We'll now move on to approval of the minutes. You've all been provided a copy in your packet. Does anyone have any corrections to be made to the minutes?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, minutes are approved. I have no public comments on non-agenda items, so we will open up the public hearing. With no old business, we'll move into new business. Item number 1, the Plastic Ingenuity final plat. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, this existing facility is located at 105 Champs Boulevard and contains approximately 80,000 square feet of building and 20 acres. Currently, the 20 acres sits in 2 parcels. This proposal is to merge those 2 parcels into one plat with a proposed final plat. Both are currently zoned I-1 in the industrial district. The purpose of that is for the expansion of Plastic Ingenuity to expand 50,422 square feet to include 44 employee parking spots. But this item is just for the plat, and it does stay with the Planning Commission. So the recommendation from staff is staff recommends approval of the final plat contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments. Staff analysis was mainly increased setbacks along the perimeter and increased utility easements along Champs Boulevard was included in the revisions. And Jason, if you have any other comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Drummer. Any questions or comments from the commission? We also have a applicant's representative as well.
Are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chair?
That's up to you.
I move that we concur with the staff recommendation to approve the final plat contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Move on to item number 2, the Plastic Ingenuity site plan and landscape plan. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, as I mentioned previously, the request is to allow the construction of 50,422 square foot building, warehouse space, and paved parking lot on 20 plus or minus acres, being an expansion of the existing 80,000, which use is allowed by meeting the intent of section 94-411 and 412 of the I-1 district by not adversely affecting the surrounding area. The expansion will bring the total combined building coverage to 131,334, which is approximately 19% building coverage on the site. The proposed site plan meets all city requirements and have been forwarded to you for approval per section 94-101C2. Additional staff comments included city engineer is contingent on review and approval of the civil plans. Fire department comments include gravel emergency drive must meet fire code load standards. The gates on both ends of emergency drive must have fire department access. There's no lock box, no lock or lock box or keypads. The hydrants being relocated is okay, and ensure construction does not block entrance exit for emergency vehicles. Public Works had no comments. And CAW utility request a 15-foot utility easement along Champs Boulevard. Staff comments have been on the setback and easement have been addressed. And Jason, do you have any other comments on the site plan?
No additional comments.
All right, thank you. Mr. Drummer, any discussion from the commission?
Mr. Chair.
Jinx. I think Commissioner Landis had you beat, Commissioner Johnson.
I have a question for the fire chief, please. Chief, you indicated that there need to be emergency access and said it couldn't be certain things, lock, lockbox, keypad. What would you accept, and have you given that direction to the developer yet?
No, ma'am. The the gate can just be something as simple as a pin to pull. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Like a breakaway gate, would that,
Yes, ma'am. Breakaway gate, or, like I said, the gate, this road that they have that's going, I was sitting here looking at it, sorry. The gate that they have, this is just a gravel driveway. It's nothing but, emergency access. They're not gonna be using it on a regular basis. Nobody's gonna be using it. And so, from my understanding, I mean, it could just be a gate that shuts. It doesn't even have to have a lock on it. They're just trying to keep any of the 18-wheeler trucks that come back there to not use that. So they asked to put a gate up, and I have no problem with it.
all right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Dale, I see you nodding along with the chief. Is that a sign that your client's acceptable to this?
Yeah, and I think they've been visiting with him directly as well to make sure that everything they've been doing with the fire hydrants, even the racking system and the expansion is all acceptable. I think there's been a lot of communication.
That's what I was gonna make sure you understood, like, we talked about that road long before they developed this plan, because they wanted to make sure we were okay with them putting a gate on there to keep the trucks from using that road, so.
Very good, thank you. Commissioner Johnson, you still have your comment?
I will yield to the young lady to my left. I mean, first, I
Yeah.
think she did have a question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. On the utility easement, the site plan still has 10 feet.
Yes, that was my comment as well.
Needs to be corrected. Okay.
Further discussion? Does anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All right, motion passes. We'll move on to the proposed landscape plan. Do we have any further staff report?
Jason, do you have any further staff? Staff recommends approval.
Any discussion from the commission?
Yeah, I got one comment, that is on the irrigation plan, to look at sheet L2. I didn't get an L2. Unless I missed something. On what's there on I guess showing the landscape plan, I don't see anything showing irrigation.
So number 8 on the piece that's up, you can see it up on the screen as well. I mean, it talks, they're gonna have an automatic drip irrigation system provided for all the new landscape areas. That provides 100% full head-to-head coverage. But yeah, let me see.
Yeah, we just had it right.
Yeah, there's not a,
They
okay.
didn't- that's
L2
just-
wasn't provided, sorry.
Yeah, L2 would just be the landscape details.
Okay.
So, but no, like you said, those automatic drip irrigations.
Further discussion?
I got a question. So Brian, you gonna run the tension, is it gonna be in the ditch, the all the way around? Is that the intent?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So you got 2-1 slopes, 30-foot cut on the backside. What type of material do you have out there, do you know?
It's clay part way down, and then they start getting into shale back there. They've had MTA out there, they've had both Kelton and Steve out there looking at it.
What did Kelton say about the 2.5 to 1?
He thought it would hold.
Not much contingency on the south side, if it doesn't, right?
Right.
So you have to put a wall in. Okay.
Further discussions or questions? Does anyone have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the plastic ingenuity site plan for the proposed landscape plan, pending any other commissioner or staff comments. Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed, no. All right, motion passes. We'll now move on to item number 3, the Maumelle High School Athletic expansion. First part being the proposed site plan. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, this request is to allow the expansion of the Maumelle High School athletic complex by adding the construction of 71,006 feet of square foot field house space with utilizing existing parking lot on 91.54 acres, being an expansion of the existing 221,783 square foot high school. In addition, the proposal will add an indoor practice facility, track, and baseball field while relocating the softball field. The expansion will bring the total combined building coverage to 304,769 square feet, or 7.64% building coverage. The proposed site plan meets all city requirements and has been forwarded to you for approval per section 94-101C2. Staff comments for the site plan include contingency on review and approval of the civil plans by the city engineer. The fire department comments, the access road along the bayou needs to be extended to the end of the building and needs to meet a distance requirement. There was a concern that came up after the comments went out last week concerning the revision they made, and the extension they made actually pulled the road away a little bit from the building. So the fire marshal added some additional comments that had to be modified a little bit more in order to get within the distance needed. So he's working with the engineer on that, with the engineer on the firm. And then the access road will need to be marked as a fire lane, no parking. It's okay to use it for bus drop-off, but we'll need to park somewhere else. We've received no further comments from Public Works or Utilities, and we've received no public comments on this. Staff comments for the site plan include floodplain needs to be shown on the plan and floodplain development permit to be required prior to development. And then updated building coverage for the entire parcel. Project area is only I'm sorry, so that's, we've gotten that, so number 2 is covered. That concludes staff comments. Staff recommends approval, contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments.
Thank you, Mr. Rimmer. I will note for a record that Vice Chairman Smith is recusing from this item. Mr. Lyon, further comment?
To further that comment, I'll let Chief Eaton speak to it as well. We met earlier today, and the road issue on the backside has been addressed, and I'll let Chief Eaton address it further as any questions
Yeah,
come up.
they were able to send me plans, but it was already too late. The agenda had already been printed, but we've got a solution on that. They were able to fix it and meet all of our demands. They actually had to curve it just a little bit, but looks great, and it won't be an issue at all. So we just didn't make the agenda.
Thank you.
Chief, is, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Chief, is this solely for code requirement for emergency ingress egress for your services?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so no paving is gonna be required? The
No,
question
sir. They understand. I even told them they can even park further down, like towards the football field. We're just have to, because there's actually a hydrant back there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about them painting, fire lane, no parking from that hydrant all the way up into the cul-de-sac. But they're gonna widen it and make it wide enough to where they can park buses on one side of the road and still allow us emergency access if we need it. But
is that curb shown from where it makes the turn out of the parking area up? Is that curb?
yes, sir. So what I got today, it's got a curb in it.
And are you gonna fire lane that?
No, sir. It's easier to point to it, sorry. There's a hydrant right here.
Yes.
And so in these plans, it kind of comes down and then curves back up. And they had to do that because there's a hydrant right there. In some of the plans, it's not on there, but physically it's there. And so I asked them, there's no parking from there up, but from here down, it'll be wide enough to where we can get around any bus that will be there.
On one side, so
Yes, sir.
nothing regarding football field will fill the parking lot up, so.
Right.
I guess somebody will have to police that. That will have to remain open through all events.
Yes, sir.
We're all the time.
And it's what it is, I mean, if you look to the other side of the soccer field, there's future expansion, way future that's where the buses will park. Right now, basically what we're doing is understanding it's kind of a give and take. They wanted a kind of a semi-secure place for visitors to park their buses, because they don't want them out in the open. I understand that. And so it's kind of like it's not a long-term solution, but it's a solution that we can both be happy with.
Okay.
Anything further from the chief?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from the commission? Anyone have a motion on the site plan?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commission comments for the site plan.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Even with Commissioner Smith's recusal, the motion passes. We now move on to the landscape plan. Staff report, please.
There's really no further comments. They've addressed, as you can see on the page, where the proposed softball field is. We just asked for some landscaping, mainly trees, alongside Victory Lane, and they've graciously put those on there. And that was the only landscaping we requested, since this is an I-1 area. That is really the only requirement for landscaping, was to put some trees on the perimeter.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Discussion from the commission?
Although there is no commercial building design review in I-1, so they just provided this information as a courtesy for the public.
That is correct. Since they are in an I-1, a commercial building design is not required. However, they graciously have put elevations in, and I believe this was approved back last week. They had a public meeting on the 17th. Is that correct?
Name and address for the record, please.
Brad Chilcote, WD&D Architects, 5050 North Shore Lane, North Little Rock. We had a community meeting, if that's what you mean. Yeah, so that patrons and parents came and looked at it.
Further discussion from the commission? Does anyone have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Maumelle High School athletics expansion for the proposed landscape plan pending other commissioner or staff comments.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll now move on to item 4, the Cypress Bend M property, and do I understand that the applicant is requesting a deferral?
Yes, sir. And a letter was provided to the commissioners tonight.
Does anyone have a motion for the requested deferral?
Make a motion to approve deferral to the June 23rd meeting for the preliminary development plan modification and preliminary plat revision for the Cypress Bend IM property.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, we'll be deferred to next month. Move on to item number 5, the ink expansion. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, this request is to allow the construction of a 13,280 square foot building warehouse space and 26 additional paid parking spaces on 3.86 acres, being an expansion of the existing 31,841 square foot industry operations of Inc. properties. The expansion will bring the total combined building coverage of 42,021 square feet, or approximately 26.8% building coverage for the lot, The proposed site plans meet all city requirements and have been forwarded to the Planning Commission for approval per section 94-101C2. If you'll note, in the approvals of this, there is a both proposed site plan, development plan modification because this is in PCD, and a proposed landscape plan and proposed commercial building design because it's in a PCD zone. Everything stays with the commission with the exception of the development plan modification, which would be a due pass recommendation to City Council. With that, staff comments include city engineer comments, contingent on review and approval of the civil plans by the city engineer. The fire department, hydrant to be added to the southeast corner of the building and ensure the hydrant and FDC not blocked by construction. No comments from Public Works nor the utilities. And we've received no public comments on this item. Planning staff comments include the drainage calculations needed for additional flow due to impervious surface expansion with new parking areas and building layout to be approved by the city engineer on this site plan. That concludes staff comments. Staff recommends approval contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments. And Jason, if you have anything else to add.
Mr. Drummer, any discussion from the commission on the site plan? No discussion, does anyone have a motion?
I could initiate the motion, but I wanted to just clarify, is this
Sure.
just for the site and drainage plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to recommend approval contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments for the site and drainage plan.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll now move on to the development plan modification. Any further staff report?
one to have one over here.
There was a question that was brought up at subcommittee about Commissioner Landis regarding the permitted use, and I think that there was, she asked for some research done on that. I was just wondering if she was satisfied, if there'd been some follow-up to satisfy her concern.
The director indicated that it was resolved, and I believe there was some discussion with the city attorney. But thank you for bringing that up.
That was Inc., wasn't it? Am I remembering the application wrong?
No, I think that was on the previous item with Plastic Ingenuity. I apologize for that.
I think it was on two.
Of course, I had that in my comments as far as meeting the intent of the code. We did research that. So yes, back we did.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the development plan modification? Does anyone have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend due pass to the city council for the approval of the development plan modification.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll now move on to the landscape plan. Do we have any further staff reports?
Nothing further. You'll notice on this, the applicant did update showing the existing trees along the roadway, which was we asked for, and then they've added trees in the concrete areas around the parking lots as typically required with any new parking areas.
Any discussion from the commission? Does anyone have a motion?
Mr. Chair, the motion to approve the proposed landscape plan for the Inc. expansion pending other commissioner or staff comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those Opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll now move on to the proposed commercial building design. Any further staff report?
Jason?
Nothing further. There were no updates needed since the subcommittee meeting. And just kind of a note, again, this is a PCD, but PCD by ordinance on the east side of Maumelle Boulevard does allow in the industrial use. And what their elevations meet the existing structure.
Any discussion from the commission? Does anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments for the commercial building design, proposed commercial building design.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion is approved. I'll now close the public hearing. We'll move on to city council liaison reports. Meeting May 2nd, Commissioner Winnick.
Yes, sir, thank you. So on the third reading, there were 3 ordinances for third reading, all passed with a unanimous vote of the 7 council members in attendance. Mr. Saunders was not in attendance. So ordinance 1059, amending Maumelle Land Use Plan and map. Ordinance 1060, amending and updating Maumelle zoning map. Ordinance 1061, amending City Code Chapter 94 of the zoning regulations. Again, all passed unanimous vote. Second reading of the following 3 ordinances. Ordinance 1062, accepting dedication of streets and drainage associated with Pinnacle Heights subdivision. Ordinance 1063, accepting dedication of streets and drainage associated with Osage Terrace. Ordinance 1064, accepting dedication of streets and drainage associated with the reserve at Country Club. That's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Winnick. May 16th was mine. We had third reading of ordinances 1062, 63, and 64. All passed, accepting dedication of streets and drainage for Pinnacle Heights, Osage Terrace, and the Reserve at Country Club. There's also Resolution 2022-23, which approved the conditional use permit of the indoor batting facility, and that was it for matters pertaining to the Planning Commission. Assignments for the month of June, June 6th, Commissioner Ramsey, June 20th, Commissioner Johnson. Anything further?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Competing motions in a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, yes?